The NRG Podcast showcases industry leaders who share universal truths and lessons learned for those looking to gain inspiration, motivation, and game-changing information. Now, here's your host, Nick Roshdi.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of the NRG Podcast. I'm super excited to share our guest this week with you. First, I want to say shout out to Paul, our studio Yoda.
Man, I'm telling you, I feel like I feel like a pipsqueak in the room here today. We got some bodybuilders here.
All right, thank you, Paul. I'm going to introduce our guest, Troy Zuccolotto. Troy has been a long friend, just an amazing person that I've known for a long time. Mr. California, Mr. America, Mr. Universe, and the CEO of YouthTech. Troy, welcome.
Pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Troy, I know I've known you for probably 20 plus years, and I've seen you, just rise with regards to what you do, your company, and you're one of the few guys I know that basically transitioned from being very successful at a professional sport to kind of the business side of the world, and you've done really amazing at both. So why don't you share with our audience a little bit about who you are, where you've come from and where you're currently at?
Okay, yeah, I started in the bodybuilding industry, obviously, when I was quite young. I won the teenage Mr. America, MR.UNIVERSE, so that's how long I've been doing it. And I progressively just kept competing year after year until I finally won the Mr. America, Mr. California, Mr. Universe. And then I transitioned that once I retired into the corporate world, where I started longevity centers, and I've been doing those now for about 25 years. When you're disciplined in bodybuilding, it takes a certain individual because it's not just working out and training. It's about diet. That's really where it comes from. The hardest thing, the easiest part is the training. The hardest part is eating the same things at the same time, the same meal every single day when you're getting ready to compete. So if you have that kind of discipline, and you can transition to that in the corporate world, then you can be very successful.
Absolutely. And I know your company, YouthTech, is very successful. You were one of I would say, the very first ones out of the gate in the early 90s that started the whole, the rejuvenation kind of a clinic out there. And share with us a little bit about your company, about your different locations, what it is you guys do.
We do hormone replacement therapy, and my biggest thing is the skin cosmetic line. We do all the lasers, Botox, fillers, stem cell rejuvenation, PRP, and then I have my own skincare line. So that, along with the hormones, that's what I've really started to focus on, is the skincare, because especially here in Newport Beach, everybody wants to look better and feel better, and so a lot of people are into how they look and feel. So when I retired, I thought Newport Beach would be one of the best places to start this, and then I progressively started one in La Jolla and also in Dallas.
Yeah, and I know a lot of your clients are, very well known and established celebrities and sports stars.
Right, correct. Yes, the sporting, and a lot of them have come to me because of my experience through bodybuilding. So they're coming to me getting information on training tips and diet and how they can recover from injury faster. So it kind of when I was in the bodybuilding world, I was also in the WWF, the wrestling world. Vince McMahon had started a bodybuilding organization, so I left the IFBB, started competing in the World Bodybuilding Federation. So I had met a lot of the WWF superstars, and by doing that, I did a lot of charity events, and so I met other sports people during that time, and they'd pick my brain just about dieting and nutrition. So when I retired, they kind of came over and were interested in what I was doing, and that's kind of how my business started.
Absolutely. And, it's amazing because, again, I've known you for a long time, and to see, how how far you've become from back in the bodybuilding days, but even more importantly, to really see to see your family, right?
Yeah.
To see you're a great husband, you're an incredible dad to two amazing daughters, which I look up to because I have a 10 and 3-year-old,
Right.
two girls. So
Yep.
to be able to have that balance of family and success and work and I still see you in the gym every morning. You're
Right.
there still putting down the weights and the good workouts you do. Share with us how you're able to throughout your career you were able to keep such a good balance with your family, and then tell us a little bit about your family as well, if you would, because I know one of your daughters was an amazing soccer player also.
Yeah, my youngest daughter, Sydney, actually played on the national level. She was one of the most highly recruited girls to come out of high school when she plays. So she'd been playing on the Olympic development team for years. And she was a really good athlete. And she's my youngest. And then I have an older daughter, Jordan, who's actually the one that's designing my new company that we got going. We started our own wine business, and she was actually the one that thought of it and starting it. And so, of course, Daddy had to back it with all the funds and get it going. So we just are about ready to launch this new wine we got going here. But she's really done all the work, and I'm kind of just sitting letting her back because I know nothing about wine. But we're excited to get it going and see what we can do with it.
Absolutely. And for our audience out there, the name of the wine is Chardonnay Party, and the website is Shardy Party. Sorry,
yes, yeah.
Shardy Party, and the website is shardyparty.com.
Correct. Yes. So we just are in the infant stages still. This is just actually a temporary kind of like a mock bottle. That's not exactly how it's going to be. But I wanted to bring it just so we can kind of show you the latest things that I'm doing. And we're really excited about getting it going because it's totally different from the realm that I come from. This is something because I don't drink, and
Right.
so this is something totally new to me. But it's exciting, and I'm looking forward for the challenge.
Absolutely. And one thing that's that's great about you that I've noticed throughout the years is you adapt, right? Just for example, starting a wine company and you don't drink.
Right.
You're big on social media.
Right.
I see you on social media all the time. So to share with our audience, if you would, the importance of that, because I know a lot of people, I'm in my late 40s and, you're a little bit older than me, but a lot of people kind of, feel like they're being left behind with times and technology as things change. But I've noticed you've always adapted and kind of reinvented yourself. And because of that, you were able to go from a successful bodybuilding career to your clinical business, and you're all over social media. Now you have your wine business. I mean, what's the key thing that our audience can take away from you with regards to being bold enough to adapt to something new and just going for it?
Well, I think in anything, I've always been somebody that likes a challenge, and bodybuilding gave me that challenge, and because there's one person that wins Mr. America a year, and so out of all the people that try for it, so it was a goal of mine, and I just wanted to take that to a different level. So when I got into the wine business and the social media, I'm not tech savvy at all. So having daughters that know all about that stuff, because when we were younger, none of this existed. We had pagers was the first thing that we had before
Right.
there were cell phones. So now I'm still learning a lot as far as the tech stuff goes, like doing the Instagram, the Facebook. My daughters usually do that for me because I really don't know how to post and do all that kind of stuff. So it's been an interesting challenge for me. But I think I'm just never content. I think that once you become content, you kind of die. I always want a challenge, and I look for challenges that are far out of my realm because I want to see how far I can actually take something. And there's times I've failed, but I think you need to fail to succeed. You have to go through times where you're gonna have failure in your life, but it's the person that gets back up, puts his boots back on, gets his pants strapped up again, and goes for it again. And is willing to take another challenge and take risk. I believe you have to take risks in life, or you just live in that same strum. I rather live up and down up and down. I got back pains, so that's why I keep wincing. But those are all about bodybuilding injuries for you. But you know, I just like challenges and seeing what I can do with something that's totally far out of my realm.
Yeah, you know, and it's so funny because I've seen that pattern in a lot of, you know, other good friends that I have, you know, that they're willing to take a risk, right? If you don't take a risk, you stay the same.
Exactly.
And failure, you know, there's always a silver lining in it. There's always that aha moment, the golden goose in failure that redirects you to go to the path you wanted to. So I've noticed that, you know, again with you as well, that you've always kind of, you know, you were bold, you were willing to take risk. Like I remember in the gym, I was talking to you one day and you said you were thinking about buying a jet. And then a month later, you're like, hey, Nick, I bought a jet.
Yeah.
You showed me pictures. So, you know, there's not a lot of guys that, you know, even if they have the ability to do that, that would really kind of go out there and do that if they're not a pilot.
Right.
But, you know, you went for it. And,
yeah.
and again, that's commendable to really put your neck out there like that. And that you know, equates to being able to achieve your goals.
Right. You know, I've always, you know, Nick, I've known you probably close to 30 years, it seems like. And I've always, you know, I've loved cars since I was a young boy, and I've loved watches. And when I started becoming more successful, it just made sense for me to get a jet because, as far as tax purposes, it helps because there are advantages to that. But it just made sense to me, and I charter it too when I'm not using it. So it was a business decision like that. But you know, these are things not because of my ego or anything else. These are just things. These are passions of mine. I collect watches and cars. They've just always been something I've liked since I was a young kid. Absolutely,
and you know what, you nailed it on the head because, you know, I've never known you to be a guy that has ego. You've always been so humble and gracious, and you know we've had some of the same friends, you know, for years. Yeah, for years when we were younger. And let's face it, some of them, you know, didn't take risks, right?
Right.
They were still doing the same thing, but they're still your friend, right?
Of course they are. Yeah.
That's what makes you special because, you know, you're always the same guy, you know, no matter what level of success you rose to, and still kept, you know, the same friends and always, you know, I noticed you give your time to a lot of people to give them advice and help them. So I truly believe that's also another reason you're blessed, and you know, you're blessed with a good family, you know, good career, everything, because you're genuine, you know, and you're more about the friendship and what's real, and all the material things to you always came second. And it's so funny because I see you all the time, you get new exotic cars and you get rid of them, and you know, it's just like a toy for you for like 2-3 months and 6 months and then it's over. You know.
It gets the thrill, and then I get bored with it and want to do something else. It's like in business, you know, I like to do things, and then I get bored and I want to go on to something else and give that a try and see what I can do with it, and if I can make that successful as well.
Absolutely. Well, listen, knowing the fact that you just started a wine business and you don't drink, I mean, if that doesn't say it all, I don't know what does.
Yeah. I let my daughter, who likes to drink, and her boyfriend, he knows a lot about wine because he owns several restaurants here in Orange County, and so he's very familiar with wine, and so I kind of let them make the decision on, you know, how much is to have a buttery taste with a little bit of oak. I know none of this stuff. They're just telling me what they were looking for. And then I've had some guys that drink a lot of wine and had them try it, and they all thought it was fantastic. So I think we're onto something good here, and it's going to be, you know, price right, you know, $20 a bottle, and you know, it's considered a very good wine too. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what I can do with this.
Yeah, no, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. So besides the new wine business, what does the future hold for you? What do you have plans with regards to the next, you know, 3 to 5 years for yourself?
Really, I'd like to really blow this wine thing up. That's my whole focus right now. I have my my longevity centers doing really well, and I have people that are kind of running them. Although I'm the face of it, you know, I have to be there a lot of times, but I have people that are good people that are helping me run the businesses, and so I can focus all my energy on this right now. And then who knows what after that? I'm sure something will come up that I want to invest in and see what I can do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about your business, your longevity business? You know, where do you see that going in the future with regards to the stem cell, all the new things coming out that are really kind of making a huge impact in the world?
And it's getting more and more popular because like when I opened in 1994, and there was, it just, nobody knew about human growth hormone, about replacing hormones as you age. All we try to do is replace what you're losing as you age, because essentially why we age is obviously our environment, how we eat all has to do with that as well, how we exercise. But more importantly, it's how when we start losing our hormones, we just gradually age faster. So these doctors did a study by replacing your testosterone levels and your human growth hormone levels as you age, it actually reverses the aging process and starts slowing it down. So your joints and tendons get better, your recovery gets better, your skin texture gets better. I have a lot of patients that have gray hair, and their gray hair started coming back to their natural color. So there's a lot of benefits that you can get by replacing your hormones as you age, and the technology keeps getting better and better. It's like anything, and now the latest thing is doing stem cell is a big thing, and we're doing that through microneedling, where we inject it into the face, where it actually gets rid of wrinkles, stores more collagen, and you get that nice young youthful look.
Nice. And would you say someone, with regards to your clientele, are they mostly, the professionals in their 30s, 40s? Who would you say your clientele are?
Nick, it's a range. I have some that are, 30, and I have my dad who's 86. So, there's a big age group, and I have all in between too. It's basically when we test your blood, we find out what you're deficient in and how deficient you are. And then the doctor prescribes what she feels is necessary for you to get back to a level like you were when you were in your early 30s, when all your hormones were at their optimal levels. And that's what our goal is, just to educate and assist people in getting their hormones restored as they age.
I'm sure, a lot of these clients that come back, they're noticing huge differences, correct?
Absolutely. Because what happens as a man, when he reaches the age of 30, he starts producing more estrogen and less testosterone. And that's why, as a man, our muscles start to sag, our hair starts to recede, we get the pot belly, because a lot of our testosterone is converted into estrogen. So we get a lot of a female hormone, and we start getting softer like a woman does. What our objective is to stop that from happening, increasing the free testosterone. So even when you look at guys like Sylvester Stallone and people that are in their 70s that are still muscular, because they keep their testosterone levels high, and they stop that conversion of estrogen.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this: what first got you, to want to, why did you get into this business in the early 90s?
Well, I knew, I met a physician that actually was doing hormone replacement therapy, and I knew really nothing about it at the time. But I knew that people, especially in Newport Beach and affluent areas, they want to look better and feel better, and they have money to do it. So I knew when human growth hormone got approved by the FDA for anti-aging purposes that this was going to be big in Newport Beach. So I went to the American Academy of Anti-Aging. I got certified through their organization, and then I hired a physician to do it with me, because you obviously have to be a physician to do it. And it just kept growing, and my connections within the industry that I came from, I knew a lot of people would be interested in this. So I was really like the first one in this whole area that was doing hormone replacement therapy. So and it just keeps growing, and then I just keep adding other things to my business as I go on.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know it's been a huge boom in your industry in the last probably 10 to 15 years or so. What have you noticed in the recent 5 years versus in the mid to late 90s, and the difference in the industry with all the new things that have come up? What have you seen that's making such a big difference?
I think the most changes the stem cell. Really, everybody is really, and that's just like in the last 2 or 3 years. You know, a lot more people started doing hormone replacement therapy than before, because they feel, you know, when you age, you get tired faster. Your energy levels go bad. Your metabolism starts to slow down, so you put on weight a lot easier. And what happens is you start you go into catabolic phase, as opposed to an anabolic phase. When you go into catabolic phase, your body's metabolism slows down, and it utilizes its muscle for its energy source and restores your fat. What we try to do by increasing your hormone levels, we put you in anabolic phase, so you start utilizing your fat for its energy source and retaining your muscle, and that's just doing through hormone therapy. And then I started the cosmetic part of it, because I knew people that were doing the hormones obviously care about their skin and how they look and feel. So I got into the laser business, where, you know, doing IPLs and laser genesis, where it rejuvenates your skin texture, gets rid of fine lines and wrinkles, and I just kept adding more things. And then I started my own skincare line through my company, where we're doing stem cells and growth factors and all these different kinds of serums that you put on your face, vitamin C, CoQ10, all in serums, where it just, you know, the worst thing is being in the sun. There's nothing worse to your skin than being in the sun, and being from the industry that I came from, we always had to be tan. So I used to spend hours and hours just baking in the sun, because you have to be, when you're on stage, you have to be tan, because that's where you show all your definition. So I have a lot of skin damage from it, just because, you know, when you're younger, you don't care. You put the oil on, you lay out all day by the pool because you want to be black. But, you know, if I knew now, back then, what I know now, I would have stayed out of the sun, because it really does damage your skin.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say with the power of, you know, social media and all the good information that's being circulated out there, people are probably even much more into, you know, being health conscious and you know, looking and feeling better these days than 10, 15, 20 years ago?
Oh, absolutely. Especially here in Southern California. It's interesting, Nick. I remember when I was Mr. America, Mr. Universe, and I would travel to other states, Minnesota, you know, Mississippi, to do grand openings at new gyms or whatever I'd be out there for. It's so different back there, because people, for the majority of the people back there, don't care how they look or feel. But in Southern California, you know, you wear shorts and tank tops almost all year round, so they're more conscious of how their body looks and how they feel and how they look. Because Southern California, I mean, that's as, you know, if this is the place to be, really. If you ask people around the world, they'd all want to live in the state of California. And what part of California? Well, Southern California. So we really have it all here. And there's a lot of competition here. So you always want to look and feel your best. And but I've noticed that over the years, that it's just gotten more and more, and all the new technology that's coming out. You know, there's people that are 60, 70 years old that look like they're 40. It's just amazing.
I know. Ron, for example, in their gym, he's 74. He's there at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, he's been a client of mine for a while, and he just looks, I mean, it's amazing how good he looks. But again, you know, he's in you see him, he's in the gym every single day. He eats, weighs his food, measures his food, so he knows how many carbs and protein grams he's putting in his body. So he takes it to an extreme, like I do as well. Because that's just something I've done my whole life. So for me to eat the way I do, where I just eat everything plain, I keep my carbs low, my fat low, it's just kind of how I've been eating for so many years, so it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing. Sports definitely are such a good, you know, are a good way to build discipline in your life. And I've seen it in you know, multiple pro or collegiate level athletes that, you know, that discipline of training, dieting, all that is just so important, that just really paves the way in your life that, most people don't even recognize till they're older in their life. Then they look back and they realize that, if it wasn't for the discipline of whatever they did
right
when they were younger, they wouldn't be, where they're at today. Well, that's pretty much the conclusion of our show today, Troy. Thank you again. You're just an amazing man, amazing husband and father, professional friend. I know I've known you for a long time and have mad respect for you. And that being said, that's a wrap for this episode of our NRG Podcast. Troy, why don't you share with our audience, if they need to reach you, what's the best way of them to contact you, and also your URL for your website?
Yeah, it's YouthTechMedical.com, YouthTech medical.com, and then we have all our services, what we provide on there, and there's contact numbers where they can get in touch with us.
Absolutely. So thank you again, and we appreciate you listening in. And remember, you can catch up on all of our episodes on Podbean. Stay tuned for our next episode featuring another dynamic guest who will share inspiration, motivation, and game-changing information for all of you good listeners.
The NRG Podcast showcases industry leaders who share universal truths and lessons learned for those looking to gain inspiration, motivation, and game-changing information. Now, here's your host, Nick Roshdi.
This is CBS News on the Hour with Jeff Glor.
Good Thursday afternoon from Thousand Oaks, California, site of our nation's latest mass shooting. 12 people were killed and more than a dozen others hurt when a gunman opened fire inside a bar full of college students. Authorities believe the gunman, 28-year-old Ian Long, a former Marine, took his own life. Ventura County Sheriff Jeff Dean says the dead include Sheriff's Sergeant Ron Helis, a 29-year veteran of the force who rushed to the scene to save lives.
Sergeant Helis and the Highway Patrol officer went in. They immediately exchanged gunfire with the suspect, and that's when Sergeant Helis was shot several times.
Jason Kaufman's 22-year-old son Cody was among those killed.
There was so many people that he touched, and now are going to be just as heartbroken as I am.
We will have much more on this story on tonight's CBS Evening News from Thousand Oaks, California. Now for more CBS News, here's Jim Chenevey in New York.
51-year-old Kenneth McKee, the operator of the duck boat that capsized in heavy weather on a Missouri lake back in July, was indicted today on federal charges. U.S. Attorney